Okay, so here is uh, the chipping part, or like I said, we'll call it all short game,
Sure.
but we'll start with the shorter shot here, the lower shot.
Mm-hmm.
And before, I'll draw some lines. Your feet are a little bit too open.
Right.
Uh,
The shaft's
you
getting way
know,
back.
if we look at a line that's kind of perpendicular to where your feet line is, that ball is way back behind it,
Right.
which isn't always necessarily the best way to look at it, but even here, that ball is on your back toe.
Right.
And I think that's too far forward because for you start leaning the shaft too far forward, you start engaging too much leading edge, and sometimes your shoulders will tilt back too much. You won't get enough energy or pressure or weight forward, and sometimes you'll hit behind them and thin them too.
Right.
You start pushing those hands too far forward. So that's why you resorted to using just the lob wedge, right, with all these short ones, is to get enough loft on it, where you could do this little motion with pitching wedge and hit more of a true loft type shot. So as we roll through this one too, I would say that for this lower shot, in this kind of like standard little chip, that there's a little too much of this flexing of your left wrist too soon, and not enough support with a pivot of your lower body. So that's why this club kind of flings by you a little too much on such a short, low shot. Okay, so the differences here are where you located your sternum, made sure that it was just forward a little bit, kind of that laser pointer type deal, pointing it at the front of the ball. We have the ball position more neutral, your back toe square, your front toe turned out, and then the hands just maybe barely ahead of your zipper, nothing too crazy.
Right.
Okay, your motion overall didn't need much work, but your external focus on this shot is a little piece of grass that we started to put down, or you could put a coin or a little tip of a tee, just feeling like you're going to brush it ahead of the ball, nothing crazy. And you can see how nicely this ball actually goes up in the air.
Yeah.
And how you keep these wrist angles a little bit more under control, and how you've got more body support, if you will. And that's really, really nice. So this is like a shaft that's barely leaning forward
Right.
at impact. It's not super diggy. This is a really nice shot. So this was lob wedge. You can see kind of how that ball came off. You could do the same thing with a 9-iron and the ball would come off much, much lower. So you have some options there. But this is the basic motion and the basic setup that you need to practice for these shots, okay? So from there we move into your pitching, or what I would just call, a little further one. This one we picked was 30 yards. And what we did here is a little bit of the same as far as the setup goes, but we flared that back toe out a little bit more. It doesn't have to be quite as square. It can be, it doesn't really matter, but I like it out more. And then we move the ball up, so you can see now it's basically ahead of center. Sternum's still forward, but not probably quite as far forward as it was on those shots. So you're further away from this ball, so let's take this one out here, and this was your 1 foot, 1 hand drill. But you're further away from the ball than you were before.
Right.
We're starting to lower the hands because that'll help you have some more like effective loft, on the club. And your hands are really, really neutral so that we can also start using the bounce. And for these ones, I like to call it controlled recklessness, right?
Right.
So this club head has some travel to it. It's way back here out of the screen. You can move it over. So this club head's gone here for a 30-yard shot, which is quite a bit. And then we're going to let kind of gravity come through so that at impact things are pretty vertical, right? And you're going to have a little bit more club head throw than the chip, right?
Right.
So that's a really, really nice shot. Your weight stayed forward enough. You didn't tip back. You let the club do its thing. And the way we got that weight feeling the right way was we put your back foot back on the toe just for balance.
Right.
And then to get some of that club head travel or club head throw feeling, we started to use one hand, right? So I was doing those shots really nonchalant with my camera in my hand in my pocket, doesn't matter, feeling the club move past, using a little bounce, and you can see how nicely this starts to move through.
Yeah.
And we can adjust this follow through a little bit later if need be, but this would be a more correct motion than those divotty things that you were hitting right away. So this club's just skimming the top of the grass in this one. Really good. Yeah, it's nice. And this is really good. So that's a big improvement. And finally, we started to move into this shot, which was a little bit more of a lob than this pitch even. Okay, so we widened the stance a fraction, tried to put the ball up more, even, and it could even go more up towards your front heel for this. You got your hands lowered yet, you have your handle feeling very neutral, and then on this one, all I wanted to do is make sure that your shoulders stay very level at address. If we start to get too far this way with them, you're hitting behind some of them, so that's just some setup stuff. And once again, we've got some club head travel and some throw. You hit this one really nice over that bunker.
Yeah. Wow.
You can see how high and soft that came out.
Yeah.
So, 3 shots that you could play anything in between with by just tweaking the club or your stance a little bit or your ball position. But these would be like, 3 types of shots that you can use as basic motion, a baseline, to hit everything with. If you can get these 3 and how the club moves, along with probably getting a different wedge with a little different bounce configuration, you'll be